shall we begin?
Let the games begin.
All right.
A new age has begun. An age of freedom.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Get to the chopper!
This is going to be quite the ride.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian Renteria, and this is the Movie Pit Podcast, where we talk about all of the big breaking movie news items of the week, along with the trailers and the movies that are out in theaters and streaming for your viewing pleasures. This week, it is a big week in terms of the movie coming out in theaters this weekend. It is also a big week in, we got some big trailers that came out, so we don't know if it's like massive, but it's pretty good because there is one big trailer we'll talk about. And then obviously some of the big movie news. We have an update, a very big update on a particular news item that dropped last week that a lot of fans like myself have been clamoring to find out and kind of confirm something along the way, but there you go. All right, I'm not gonna waste any time. Let's get right to the podcast this week. I never know if I actually have audio issues. Last week when I was editing, it didn't feel like there was too much, like the audio was too scuffed, so I don't know how it will be this week, because I know for a fact I will be in different rooms and stuff like that, and the audio may or may not be scuffed this week like it was last week. So it's always a crapshoot when I'm recording most of the podcast, if not the whole podcast, at work or in my car in the parking lot at work. So like I mentioned last week, it's these next few weeks of the podcast, pretty much the rest of the month, really is going to be a little weird in terms of recording. It may sound like I recorded the podcast in one part and then recorded the podcast in another part. So for the next few weeks, if you can just bear with me in terms of the audio, that'd be great. But yeah, let's not waste any time, like I mentioned, and let's get straight to the podcast and the movie news. And we're going to start off like we always do here on the podcast with trailer talk.
Coming soon to theaters.
All right, so we had quite a few trailers drop this week, like I mentioned. Very quickly, there's a new trailer for DC League of Super Pets that came out. It's a longer trailer. It's pretty much just it's kind of more or less the same of what we've seen, but it gives us a better idea what the movie is. The Justice League has been kidnapped, and the only people that could save them is their super pets. There you go. That comes out July 29th. I don't really have too much to say about DC League of Super Pets. I'm sure I'll probably go watch it, but I'm not excited. It's not the DC movie that I was excited to watch. So we'll just put that there. So there's that. There was a teaser for the Roku original film Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Yankovic? Why did I say his name weird? Al Yankovic story, which was released this week, giving us our first look at the biopic and of Daniel Radcliffe playing the famed singer Weird Al. The teaser has like a surgeon playing throughout the trailer, which of course is a parody on the Madonna song "Like a Virgin," which obviously Weird Al made a career of parodying big songs. Evan Rachel Wood is playing Madonna in the movie, and she's briefly teased at the end of the trailer, or the teaser rather. So she's there. Yankovic also co-wrote the movie with director Eric Apple, who has done episodes for Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Silicon Valley. So he has a history of, doing these, outlandish comedy movies. So, the movie's in good hands in that case. No word on when the movie will be released, but the movie has finished production. They already finished filming. We got a teaser out. It's on Roku channel. Maybe sometime this summer, maybe by the end of the year. We don't know. Radcliffe looks really good in it. There's a scene where he's shirtless and he, I'm comfortable saying it. He looks good. I'm just saying, ladies, if that's what's interests you, and even some guys. But yeah, that's there. It's a teaser. It's not really too much to, dive into anything. It does look a little wacky, which you would expect on a Weird Al movie. But in terms of really digging into it, it's just a teaser, so there's not too much to to really get into. The next trailer we're going to talk about very quickly is Hulu released a trailer for their new original romantic comedy called The Valet. This movie stars Samara Weaving, of course from Ready or Not, as Olivia, a big movie actress who, in order to hide the fact that she's having an affair with a married man, and also a fellow actor who is played in the movie by Max Greenfield, aka Schmidt from New Girl. I think that's pretty much where everyone will know him from. And being seen by the paparazzi, she seeks out the other man that was in that picture, which is played by Eugenio Debrez, who's named Antonio in the movie. The catch, given, of course, the title of the movie, is that Antonio is just a valet, and Olivia and her team fake a relationship to take off any potential heat on Olivia because she has a big movie coming out. It looks like she's playing Amelia Earhart. So, but yeah. So, and of course, being a romantic comedy and, being stuck in a situation, the two obviously become close and maybe something will bloom from it. Debrez, besides starring in the movie, also produced the movie, and that will come out again on Hulu on May 20th. So obviously we'll talk about it again at the end of the month when it comes out. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know this movie was out or even being made. So when I saw the trailer, I was kind of actually surprised. This looks rather enjoyable. Debrez is very comfortable in that kind of, in the most respectful way possible, the kind of fool or, doofus role, kind of like that. I was trying to think of another word. I couldn't think of it, but he's very good in that role. And it looks like he's playing to, his strengths in here with the valet. And Samara Weaving, always good to see Samara Weaving in anything. And this is kind of different from what we've seen her in a lot recently. She's been doing a lot of, horror movies. You got Ready or Not. You had, Guns Akimbo, which was the one with Daniel Radcliffe, which we talked about earlier, which is this crazy, action comedy kind of, more action on the action side, just, kind of outlandish action. And she plays this really out there character. But, it's nice to see, Samara Weaving kind of do something more, just relaxed, not where she has to scream bloody murder or be too out there. She's just playing probably a stereotype of someone I'm sure we'll see in the movie. But this looks pretty funny. It looks I like Debrez, especially kind of in these kind of roles. I was probably one of the handful of people that rather enjoyed the Overboard remake. It's, yes, problematic, but even the one in the 80s was problematic. But I thought him and Anna Faris had some great chemistry in that movie. So if you haven't seen that and you want to give that a shot, check that out. How to Be a Latin Lover was the other one that I've seen him in. But he's good. Debrez will knock anything out of the park. He was also recently in Coda. He plays the music teacher in that one. So he's good in anything. You give him anything and he'll probably knock it out of the park. So I have a feeling that he's going to knock this one out of the park too. So there you go, The Valet. We'll talk about that again once it comes out later this month on Hulu. The last trailer we're going to talk about a little bit more quickly here, just because I don't have too much to say about it, is the first trailer for Prime Video's upcoming comedy drama called Emergency. And the movie follows 3 college students who want to take part of the big spring break parties going around. However, when they go to their apartment to pregame, they find an unconscious white girl they don't know. And the reason why I bring that up, and the reason why they don't call the police, is because all of them are people of color. And obviously, as one of the characters says, the cops will only see that. They will see them, and they will see a knocked out white girl in their apartment. And what follows is them trying to take the girl to the hospital, but it looks like they make random stops every now and then. I don't know for what reason. And then there's also the sister of the girl who's knocked out, who's trying to find her sister, obviously, because she went party, or they went to their own party, and then the girl disappeared, and she's trying to find her. So I don't want to give too much away from the trailer, because the trailer is really funny. I did not expect this trailer at all. This is another movie that I didn't know was being made or heard nothing about it. And this looks really funny. I genuinely laughed. During the trailer, there's one moment near the end of the trailer, or a couple moments near the end of the trailer, where it is just genuine. It got me genuinely to laugh out loud. And if a trailer does that, I think that's a good sign for me. That's immediately a sign for me to go and watch this movie. So Emergency will come out on May 27th on Prime Video. I'll make sure to mention that again at the end of the month when we talk about it. So those are the small trailers. Let's get to the big trailer of the week, which was Olivia Wilde's second directorial feature, Don't Worry, Darling. So the first trailer for Olivia Wilde's Don't Worry, Darling looks pretty good. I mean, it looks pretty good. I mean, I think CinemaCon, I know CinemaCon got to see, I think they got to see this. I think this is probably what they showed them. They probably maybe showed them a little bit more, but everyone at CinemaCon was, raving about the footage, and now we finally have our first trailer. Florence Pugh leads the movie as Alice, who seems to be living the idyllic life with her husband, played by Harry Styles in the movie, in an experimental 50s township called Victory, the desert utopia that is a brainchild of corporate CEO and life coach, played by Chris Pine in the movie. While the husbands go off to work on a top-secret Victory project, the wives spend their time enjoying the riches of the township with the understanding that they can never question their work of their husbands. However, Alice begins to question the secretive project and the town, which puts her life in danger. The movie also co-stars Wilde herself. She will, besides directing and co-writing the movie, she also will star in the movie. Gemma Chan's also in there. Nick Kroll's in there. I can't remember if we saw him in the trailer or not for some reason. But Timothy Simmons is also in there. He was in, I think most people will probably know him from not Silicon Valley, Veep. That was when he was in. Of course, there's other people in there, but I think those are like the big stars that everyone will know. Like I mentioned, Wilde did co-write the movie with her Booksmart co-writer Katie Silberman, and the movie will come out on September 23rd. Again, this looks really good. It looks a little trippy. It looks very, looks very strange and trippy. There's like everything seems kind of like normal for the most part. It does seem like kind of like dream-esque a little bit. And then there's a certain point when everything starts kind of turning, and it's very brief, and you barely notice it if you blink. It's a shot of like a plane, and then it kind of like shimmers a little bit, and you kind of don't know what's going on. And then that's kind of where the trailer starts, going everything. There's a moment in the trailer also where like it looks like a building shakes, and then Olivia Wilde's character is kind of like, at least they're getting work done. Of course, not questioning, what's really going on. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it looks very, it's hard to believe that Wilde directed this. I mean, not because, she can't, but because, we all saw what she did with Booksmart, and that this is completely different and completely in the opposite direction of what she did with that. And I don't know. I mean, this looks really good. I mean, I don't want to get, go too much into it in case people don't, want to watch the trailer for the first time in theaters, or, just want to avoid as much as they possibly can with the trailer, but it looks really good. It does also look very... it looks like there's going to be a lot of sexy time in the trailer, or in the movie, because the trailer has a lot of sexy time too. It looks like Florence Pugh and Harry Styles really go at it. And there's one point where they're going at it in the bathroom and Chris Pine's watching them. So I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, it's going to be a weird, sexy, twisty kind of psychological thriller that we don't really get anymore. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this has to go. And obviously the cast is great: Chris Pine, Florence Pugh, Olivia Wilde, Gemma Chan's also really great. We saw her in Eternal. She played Cersei, for those who needed face to the name. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I really am. So there's that. So go check that out. It's a really good trailer. It looks like a really good movie. It's a really long trailer. It's almost 3 minutes long, which is, it's not rare, because I think the Jurassic World Dominion trailer was almost 3 minutes long too. But the trailer also doesn't really give anything away. It doesn't feel like it gives anything away. So that's always good. All right, so those are all the trailers. Let's get to the movie news items of the week. First up, we have John Woo is set to remake his own 1989 classic action thriller, The Killer, exclusively for the streaming service Peacock. The movie, FYI, followed an assassin on his last job, and during that he accidentally blinds a nightclub singer while trying to tend to her. He also takes a new mission to assassinate the crime boss, but has to avoid the police and the mob that the crime boss is in charge of. It's really good. If you never watched it, I don't want to give too much away about it, but it's a very good movie. It's the tail end of John Woo's career in China before he came over to America to start making movies here. But yeah, this is really good. So this isn't the first time actually that Hollywood has tried to remake The Killer. I don't remember if we talked about this on the podcast. I have a vague memory of reading it, but I don't remember if we actually talked about it on the podcast. But in 2018, there was reports going around that Hollywood was going to try to remake The Killer, and they wanted to do a gender swap of the main character, and Lupita Nyong'o was going to play the role that was originally played by Chow Yun-fat. Obviously, Chow Yun-fat and John Woo have a tremendous history together. So that was going to be the original plan that Hollywood was going to do. And then for whatever reason, obviously, nothing ever happened with the project, and it kind of just died. And I guess now John Woo is going to remake the movie himself and put it up on the streaming service Peacock. Apparently, this is kind of like a deal that they got going on where Peacock's going to try to do a lot more original movies, obviously try to compete with Netflix and Hulu and Prime Video and Apple TV Plus as well. And, any other streaming service I'm forgetting about. But yeah, that's the HBO Max. But that's what they're trying to do, I guess. And, obviously bringing in a big name rather, like John Woo is obviously very good. And then, remaking his own movie, which will be nice. John Woo at the moment is directing another action movie called Silent Night, his first American film in a long time. I believe that's currently filming in Mexico, if I remember correctly. So that's currently filming right now. There's no word yet on when production on this remake will start. It could potentially be John Woo's next movie. I don't think he has anything lined up after Silent Night, so we can be seeing this remake of The Killer coming. I would have been very hesitant about a remake of The Killer, but if it's John Woo remaking his own movie, why not? So I'm okay with that. Next up, Meg Ryan is heading back to the director's chair for a romantic comedy called What Happens Later, which is described as a, quote, evolved and nostalgic take on the romantic comedy genre. Ryan will also star in the movie and has a co-star in David Duchovny, with the story centering on a couple that meets by chance for the first time decades after splitting up. Stranded in an airport for a night, they go over what could have been in their relationship if they had stuck together. The movie is based on a stage play called Shooting Star by Stephen Dietz, and he actually will co-write the script for the movie with Ryan and with fellow playwright Kirk Lynn. Production should start soon, as reports say the movie is aiming for a 2023 release, which is of course next year. Meg Ryan I forgot to put she has directed the movie before. It's been a while since she's directed something, so I apologize for not putting that in my notes, but I think it was a while. I think it was a long time ago. I think it was like maybe early 2000s, maybe late 90s. I could be wrong about that, but but this is a while. She hasn't been in front of a camera, like acting wise, in a long time. And I think this is kind of funny. I think the quote of it being like a nostalgic take on the romantic comedy is a nice little is a nice little tidbit here, because obviously Meg Ryan during the 90s was the romantic comedy queen, for the lack of a better phrase. And then you have David Duchovny in there, who of course 90s heartthrob, and he's been steadily working. Obviously the last thing he was in, at least the last thing that I saw him in, I don't know if he's done anything after that, or has anything that he's been in has been released after that. The Bubble on Netflix, which was fine. It wasn't that great, but it was fine. It was fine for what it was, I guess, sort of. Anyway, but with Meg Ryan coming back behind the camera, co-writing the movie, and even starring in the movie, I think that's pretty cool. Especially considering the basic thing of the story is that it's about two people who haven't seen each other in decades. So it makes sense that it would be kind of tongue in cheek that it would be Meg Ryan returning back to the romantic comedy genre, who she hasn't done in a long time. So that's pretty cool. So this is the big movie news item of the week. I don't care where it falls in on the outline, where it falls in the podcast. This is the big movie news item of the week, and we're gonna just go right into it firsthand. We're gonna be talking about Fast X. Big update. Many updates that have happened since last week when it was announced that Justin Lin would not be coming back to direct. But it may have found its new director. He hasn't officially signed on yet, at least from what I've read. Universal is trying to lock down Louis Leterrier, who has directed movies like Now You See Me, Clash of the Titans. He also directed the first two Transporter movies, the ones with Jason Statham. He directed the Netflix series The Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance, and he's currently, I believe he's still currently attached as a producer, like an executive producer, and also directing the Netflix series Lupin. He also directed The Incredible Hulk, which does not get enough love. I really am probably one of the only people that genuinely love The Incredible Hulk, or at least really like The Incredible Hulk, and it gets way too much hate. Anyway, there might be a chance that he officially signs on, because reportedly Leterrier and the Universal Studio chief Donna Langley have a great working relationship, but things need to get steamed out in his schedule before he can sign on officially to Fast X. A second unit, like I mentioned last week, when Justin Lin left, second unit is still currently shooting, at least at the time that this report came out. And I don't know if they're still, shooting at the time of this recording, but second unit is still shooting, but a director is needed soon, especially if Universal wants to keep that May 19th, 2023 release date. And apparently it's costing them a lot of money also to not have a director in tow. And like I mentioned, Luthier, I like his early stuff. The first two Transporter movies are really good, so that that really gives him a leg up on anybody else they could hire, because he knows how to direct set pieces, he knows how to direct chase sequences, he knows how to direct car stunts. So having him would be really fun to bring him back, because I think he can probably pull that off. I haven't heard great things about Lupin. I haven't watched it yet. It's on my summer watch list, but I definitely will watch that. So Luthier, with that kind of track record, would be a decent replacement for Justin Lin. Not that we needed a replacement for Justin Lin, but now that we need one, I guess he would be, the best one, if they can't get, any other action director to come on board, because most of them are probably busy doing projects that they already lined up. But the real news, that everyone cares about and that has been released. I mentioned last week that Lin left the project as a director. He's still on as producer, of course. But everyone speculated, including myself, that the reason Lin left was because of Vin Diesel. And it's been reported that Diesel obviously has been difficult to work with. But it turns out that is the case. Originally, let's back up just a tiny bit. Originally, the reasoning was creative differences, which is fine. People have creative differences all the time. People leave because of creative differences all the time. Sometimes it's scheduling conflicts. They usually don't leave with creative differences a week into filming or once filming starts, because that's kind of a bad move. I think you should all get, all should be on the same page by the time, cameras start rolling. There was two reports that came out. The first report came from the New York Daily News, saying that a source told them that Lin left over differences with Diesel, as Diesel would arrive late to set, not remember his lines, and would be out of shape. That was the initial report that came out of why Lin left from the New York Daily News. Not the most comforted, or not the most trusted, not the most place you should trust your movie news to come from, even if it comes from, someone who says they're part of the industry. Just say. Anyway, The Hollywood Reporter, a more credible, reliable movie news site, then released a report what literally felt like a day later, giving reasons, not one reason, reasons why Lin left the director's chair. For one, Lin thought that he had a locked-in script. Unfortunately, a scene was cut in Eastern Europe because obviously of the ongoing conflict with Russia and Ukraine. Obviously, Universal probably didn't feel comfortable sending a film crew over there, which is fair. But a side note of this, apparently Diesel has power over set pieces, and it's up to the writers and directors to figure out to fit it in, even if it doesn't make sense to the rest of the movie. So I guess he had some power. I don't know if he had that cut, but it seemed and it read like that was cut because of obviously the political turmoil that's going on right now, which is fair, fine. But Hollywood Reporter made sure to note that Diesel has some control over set pieces. 2. Universal had sent Lin's script to another writer in London to, quote, refine the dialogue for certain characters, a move that Lin did not like, since he did write the script himself, but was supposedly expected, but still not appreciated by Justin Lin, who obviously wrote the script. 3. One of the main villains for the movie apparently has not been cast yet. How do you not cast one of your main villains already? How? Even with everything going on right now, how do you not cast your main villain? Charlize Theron is confirmed to return as Cypher, but it doesn't seem like she's going to be the main villain of the movie, unless, things have to change now and they end up making her the main villain. Jason Momoa has teased that he would be playing on the villain side of things, but he's not playing the main villain. So there's still a big role that they have not cast yet. How do you do that? And finally, the last reason, in a meeting that reportedly took place on April 23rd, this is FYI a few days before Justin Lin released that statement that he had, dropped out of directing. The meeting was between Lin, Diesel, and two other unknown people, probably the other producers on the movie. Diesel is, of course, a producer on the movie as well because, whatever. Diesel presented more notes that would further delay production and force Lin to change the direction of Fast X so close to filming. The notes led to a discussion with Lin, and according to the report, had Lin to leave the meeting, slamming the door behind him. And there was one source saying that Lin said this, quote, "This movie is not worth my mental health," end quote. Lin apparently was so fed up with the constant meddling for both Universal because of the script and Diesel because, Diesel was probably just going to go to Universal and be like, "Hey, I want this." And Universal was like, "Yes, sir." Lin just said he was out. And he and the studio reached a settlement for Lin to leave, to exit the director's chair. Obviously, again, you'd still on as a producer. Universal did release an official statement about everything that read like this, saying, quote, "Any creative differences leading to Justin Lin's exit were with the studio and not with fellow producers, cast, or crew." However, multiple reports and sources, told the outlets, and the report that came out said that the environment on set was the reason why Lin left the project, and it was the reason that the fights with Diesel were the reason why he left the project, despite what Universal's trying to say. Now, the Hollywood Reporter notes that Lin stayed on as producer to calm things down and to prevent other cast and crew members from leaving, which is not what you want to hear from any movie, especially a big-time blockbuster that reportedly is already over or will go over $300 million in budget before marketing. They haven't spent any money on marketing yet, and they're already going to go over $300 million. That is mind-blowing to me that they're going to do that. If Diesel, of all people, is the reason why Fast and the Furious franchise dies because he can't put his ego away, that would be something else, honestly. Because Diesel only came back to the franchise. He had that cameo sequence, or that cameo scene in Tokyo Drift because he wanted the rights from Universal to make another Riddick movie, which was Riddick, not Chronicles of Riddick. He had already done that. But it's making my brain hurt. And now Diesel, being a producer, is going to hurt the franchise that he, quote unquote, started, even though Diesel's Dominic Toretto was never the main character. He was never the main character. He never felt like the main character of the movie. It was all about Paul Walker's Brian, not Vin Diesel's Dominic Toretto. Even though it has become about Dominic Toretto in these later sequels because Vin Diesel has pushed his producer, weight around. Now look, I know getting worked up over a Fast and the Furious movie seems really dumb, and you're probably right. But I'm not necessarily getting worked up over Fast X probably getting delayed, because it probably will get delayed if they don't sign a director soon. I'm getting more worked up over the fact that Diesel is so full of himself that if this is his franchise, has he earned the right? Here's a more important question. Has he earned the right to? I don't know. Probably not. Yes, the franchise, whether you like it or not, is a massive money earner for Hollywood and Universal, but that shouldn't make you a dickhead. And look, Diesel could be a really great guy. Maybe he's just, he has a vision for the franchise that he is passionate about and that he has, essentially and effectively made his own. Once he came back, it became about Dominic Toretto. It didn't become about Brian. It didn't become about the other people. It became about Dominic Toretto. But your passion shouldn't drive people away or make you unbearable to work with, especially if what you are doing and what you do for a living is basically work with other people. Yes, there are probably other actors worse than Diesel. Yes, there have been well-known and respected actors in Hollywood who have been reported to be a bigger pain in the ass to work with than Vin Diesel. And that have had very successful careers than Vin Diesel, more successful to the careers than Diesel. But Diesel, with all due respect, and I do mean that with all due respect, you are not one of those actors who is allowed to have as big of a head that you think that you have right now, to think that you are the reason why this franchise is just mainly yours, and for you to act like a dickhead. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to do that, and you don't get to be, as some people point out, manipulative in trying to bring back Dwayne Johnson into the mix. I didn't read what he wrote to Dwayne Johnson, that public plea he made to bring back Dwayne Johnson into the franchise because, again, Vin Diesel was being, difficult to work with. I guess he had you. I forgot to look it up. I should have looked it up too. But from what I've read, it sounded like he used Paul Walker. It sounded like he was using his kids, not Paul Walker's kids, but I think, his kids. Or maybe he was using Paul Walker's kids, or he was using, Dwayne Johnson's kids, or, and he was using like, you owe it to the fans and you owe it to, all this. That's not the way to make, that's not the way to make it up with someone. That's not the way to make it up to anyone, especially if you're a grown ass man. Like, just man up and say that, hey, I know it was difficult to work with. I'm sorry. And, let's hash it out. And let's, we don't have to be friends. Let's just go to work. And I promise that I will, not be as difficult to work with anymore. That's all you had to say. But no, you had to Vin Diesel it up. You had to get a big head and you had to make it all about yourself. You have to be the center of attention. It's annoying. I don't know why this bothers me. We've heard stories like this before, but for whatever reason, it bothered me now because, again, I'm a fan of the franchise, and I have been a fan of the franchise. Have they all been good? No, they have not all been good. But to see what Justin Lin had done with the franchise, back with Tokyo Drift, back with Fast and the Furious, with Fast 5, with Fast and the Furious 6, to reinvigorate it, and he tried something different with Tokyo Drift. They try to make it kind of like try to keep the name, and they try to, make it like an anthology series, which I didn't mind. I think once we realized that's what they were trying to do, that was fine. But then he brought back all the characters of Fast and the Furious, and then Fast 5 came along, and that completely reinvigorated the franchise. It made everyone fall in love with the franchise again. It did everything, and it brought in The Rock, and there you go. Off to the races. And then Fast and the Furious 6 came out, and it continued what it was doing with Fast 5, and it just upped the ante even more. And then, unfortunately, Furious 7 came out, and they had to deal with, the Paul Walker passing away before filming had even, ended. So they had to figure out how they were going to continue and how they were going to, go with, the character of Brian. Were they going to kill him off, and that didn't seem right? Or were they going to just write him off, which is essentially what they did, even though, obviously the end of Furious 7 is like a tribute to him, is a tribute to, obviously, Paul Walker. Not necessarily a tribute to Brian O'Connor, it was a tribute to Paul Walker, which was nice. Everyone expected it, everyone was fine with that. And I think everyone was expecting the franchise to just go away. Because, without Brian, he was kind of the heart of the series. Like, do we really need to keep going with another Fast and the Furious movie? Probably not. And then, Vin Diesel, because he was Vin Diesel, said, no, we got to keep doing these movies for Brian. Or for Paul, not Brian. We got to keep doing these movies for Brian. Oh my God, I did it again, for Paul Walker. They did The Fate of the Furious, and obviously all the stories came out that Vin was hard to work with. And then they did F9, and they brought back Justin Lin. No offense to the other directors. No offense to James. I think James Wan handled Furious 7 wonderfully, because he did a great job with that. No offense to F. Gary Gray, who directed The Fate of the Furious Part 8. That was fine, but that movie felt like it was missing something, and it was missing Paul Walker. It was missing Brian O'Connor. It was missing that tidbit. We didn't realize how much we needed Brian in these series to, keep everything intact. So we had that, and then F9 came along, and they brought back Justin Lin, and I felt like that was like a course correction in the right way. You bring back the guy that reinvigorated this franchise to essentially end the franchise, because they want to end it with Fast X and Fast 11. So they want to bring potentially Fast 11. So they want to bring it back and end these movies in the right way with the guy that essentially reinvigorated this franchise and brought fans back, brought new fans in. Great. Awesome. And I'm sorry, you fucked it up. How do you do that? I don't know. All right. Yeah. No, I'm probably getting too worked up for Fast and the Furious. This is what happens when you give me too much time to dwell on this, because this came out very early in the week, so I have a lot of time to think about this. If this came out like on a Thursday or a Friday morning, I probably wouldn't have gotten this deep with it. But you gave me time to work on this, and that was your fault. that was your fault, movie news gods. That was your fault. Yeah, that's it. I don't know where I'm putting this. I don't know if I'm putting this at the very beginning or I'm putting this at the very end. Regardless of that, this is still the big movie news item of the week for me. I don't think anything that comes out this week is going to break what this is. So there you go. Let's either move on to the next movie news item, or let's get on to the rest of the podcast with the movies that are coming out in theaters and streaming this weekend for all your viewing pleasures.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So I only have one movie that I was able to kind of lock down on in terms of streaming, and that is The Takedown. This will be on Netflix. It is a French movie, so you will have to read subtitles, unfortunately. Or, if you want to take the cop out and do a dubbed version. I don't know if they have a dubbed version. Maybe they do. Who knows? But anyway, The Takedown. It's up on Netflix. It follows two police officers who are paired together, who are complete opposites. And they are paired together to uncover a unexpectedly big criminal case. That is the synopsis for the movie. It stars Omar Sy Omar Sy from the Netflix series Lupin. He was also in the first Jurassic World movie. It looks like he will be returning for Dominion later this year, in a couple months. And he was also Bishop in the X-Men Days of Future Past movie, if you remember that movie, or if you want to remember that movie. So yeah, he's in this. He plays one of the police officers. And the only reason it's kind of fortunate that I picked this one out because as I was doing research, because I didn't really know too much about it. So as I was doing research, I saw who directed the movie, and it just so happened to be Louis Leterrier, who we talked about earlier. So nice little synergy there for that. But yeah, that's The Takedown. It's on Netflix if you want to go check that out. And of course, the big movie out in theaters this weekend, the only movie out really in theaters. I'm sure there's limited releases here and there, but the big movie really, let's face it, in theaters this weekend is the new movie anyway, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It is the next Marvel movie. It is officially the start of the summer movie season. I usually do a summer movie season preview podcast. I didn't do one this year because COVID and, stuff getting still moved around, and, the summer movie season ever fluctuating as always. So, we'll just have to, leave the summer movie season out as week by week, however that may be. So, but Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I know there's a bunch of spoilers out there, apparently some leaks that got out. I've been very fortunate to never or to not have read those leaks. I usually don't really get a lot of leaks on my timeline. I think, people that I follow, thankfully, are very good people and don't retweet spoilers on my timeline. So I very much appreciate that for all of you, for the podcast and even my personal Twitter timeline, which is really great. So thank you to all you good people out there. But so yeah, there's some leaks out there, but regardless of that, the overall reception from what I can gather, in the small ventures that I have taken out onto Twitter is that it's mainly positive. A lot of the reviews that are coming out have been positive for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, praising its boldness and brashness and chaoticness, praising Sam Raimi coming back to the superhero genre and, taking over this character of Doctor Strange, and everything, in between, and, all the stuff that they have to connect and, that they're bringing in and all that stuff. So, a lot of positive word of mouth for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, at least so far, from all the reviews that I've seen or that I've dared to venture to see have all been, pretty much positive. And, there's, people out there saying, even the positive reviewers are saying, there's a few setbacks, maybe it's a little bit too fan servicey, maybe there's, I think that's the main thing that I've seen so far, that it's probably a little bit too fan servicey in terms of what it's trying to do and say. But it's the Multiverse of Madness. Of course, it's going to be a little too fan servicey. But I think any comic book movie really, I guess here's my hot take of the week. It's not really a hot take, but I guess any comic book movie really is fan servicey. Can we honestly probably say that? I don't know if I feel overly comfortable, but I think I feel comfortable enough to be like, I think any comic book movie in general is fan servicey because it's, devoted to a certain fan base. And now that, the MCU is, in the mainstream and pop culture, and even people who are not familiar with the comics know who these characters are or semi know who these characters are, they get excited for it. So I don't know. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation for someone else's podcast that I, could probably be in. yeah, I've been getting, everyone's been saying that this, it's good. Everyone's saying that it's not what they expected, but in a good way. From some people that I've follow that have been very good about keeping things quiet in terms of spoilers anyway. So I don't know. I'm gonna go watch it. Obviously, I'm a Marvel shill, I guess. I am gonna go watch it. I will most likely, probably more on the most likely side, do a reaction podcast to the movie next week. Probably like Tuesday or Wednesday. Probably give people enough time to watch it because it will most likely be spoiler related. But yeah, I'll do that, and in the meantime we'll just have to stay vigilant on the spoiler side of things. But there you go. So Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness coming out this weekend in theaters, and The Takedown on streaming on Netflix if you want to go give that a try. And that's it, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the podcast this week. I very much appreciate it. You guys have always been very kind to me in terms of listening to the podcast, and I know who you are. And if I don't know who you are, please reveal yourself to me. I'd really appreciate that. So yeah, go check everything out in the description/show notes area. Links to the social media accounts like Twitter and Instagram, links to all the trailers that we talked about this week, and links to where you can find the podcast in multiple different platforms. We're on YouTube, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Stitcher, we're on Spotify, we're on Anchor. Yeah, so wherever you can probably find a podcast is where a podcast is. There's a few places that I'm trying to I want to put the podcast on in case anybody really listens to a certain outlet that a podcast is on, and that's the case. Please let me know, and I will try to put the podcast up on there. I know Google Play is another one that people use, so if there's enough people out there who want the podcast on Google Play, please let me know. Just shoot me a DM on social media, and I'll try to put it up on there. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I very much appreciate it. I always appreciate it. Thank you for bearing with the possible audio issues. If there is no audio issues, then never mind me, but I very much appreciate that. You guys are great. You guys are awesome. You guys are always awesome. I appreciate you guys. I never say that enough. I appreciate you guys. So yeah, thank you guys for listening, and be sure to stay safe out there. Be good people, and as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!